My name is Chris Vasquez. I'm a voice actor, podcaster, and lifelong Houstonian. But I gotta admit, I don't know the city and what's happening in it as well as I think a Houstonian should. I mean, if someone from out of town walked up to me and asked me what there is to do, I wouldn't know what to tell them. That's what inspired this podcast. I want to clue you in on news, cool events, quirky things our fellow Houstonians do, what the best new food places are, and highlight people that are doing their part to better this city, becoming real-life Houston heroes. This is Houston Happenings. What is up, Houston? How are all my fellow Houstonians doing out there? Guys, welcome to the very first episode of Houston Happenings. Now, I know you heard that little bit of the intro at the beginning, but I want to give you guys a little bit of a rundown on what this podcast is going to be, what it is I'm going to be talking about on this podcast. So, one of the first things, there's going to be a little bit of an order. I'm going to try to cover some sort of news, cover some sort of events happening here in Houston, some funny, some weird stories coming across from Houston and surrounding areas, spotlight some food, some restaurants, some food trucks. I mean, who doesn't love food? Who doesn't love trying new food things out there, right? And I want to finish off with something called Houston Heroes. This is going to be one of the most important segments of the podcast, Houston Heroes, because the whole point of what I want Houston Happenings to be is I want you guys to be aware of what's happening in Houston, what's happening around surrounding areas, what is happening with the city, and what is happening with the people. But I don't want to cover the drama, the crime, the politics. I mean, you guys get that in spades everywhere else you go, whether it's the TV, whether it's the radio, whether it's the bus station, whether it's another podcast. That's all they talk about. And man, if you want to hear that, you're not going to hear from me. You're going to hear from somebody that's more qualified than some guy that's just recording a podcast. You know what I'm saying? So we're going to skip all that. We're going to ignore all that. I want to give you guys good news. I want to give you guys uplifting news. I mean, we're going through some tough times here in Houston, in the United States, and the rest of the world. And man, I feel it too, man. I've been stuck at home for a couple of weeks now. Frankly, I mean, luckily I do still have a job, and I'm very, very, very thankful for that. But I do have a lot of free times on my hand, which is, hey, I mean, this is why, one of the reasons why I'm starting this podcast here, to do something at my house, you know, keep my mind and my body occupied, but also try to uplift my fellow Houstonians. That is a big part of this podcast. Again, moving forward, if you expect to hear political news, if you expect to hear about who got shot where and what car flipped over on what freeway, this is not the podcast for you. This is all about good vibes, good news, uplifting stuff. So let's jump right into it, guys. The first two news stories that I want to cover, I think it's really cool. They're all beer related. I mean, who doesn't love a good beer, right? I know I do. So it turns out that Lone Star Beer, which is a local brewery located in around Houston, they are bringing out their first seasonal beer called Rio Jade. Apparently, for the longest time, they've only had their basic beer. And, actually, come to think of it, isn't this the beer that inspired Alamo beer from King of the Hill? It certainly does seem familiar. When I looked at the label, it looked really, really similar to Alamo beer from King of the Hill. So it looks like their Rio Jade is being carried in stores now by Kroger. And apparently Costco and H-E-B will start covering it in May. And see, the cool part about this thing is that Lone Star Beer has actually committed to helping out medical workers in the field that are out there risking their lives, trying to save everybody else. Proceeds are going to go to support medical workers, medical professionals in some sort of way, fashion, form, or manner, which I think is really cool. And that's why I wanted to spotlight Lone Star Beer. So if you're in Kroger and you see their new Rio Jade, consider picking it up and helping out those Houston professionals that are doing all they can and frankly not being paid enough, in my opinion. So guys, the other news story that I wanted to highlight is a movement that is called All Together. It is a brewery over in Brooklyn, in New York, called Other Half Brewing. And what Other Half Brewing did is they took a basic recipe for a beer and they reached out to other breweries in the United States and said, all right, guys, here's a recipe. We want you to take this recipe and we want you to make it your own. We want you to play around with it, improvise it, whether you make it a porter, whether you make it an IPA, whether you make it whatever it is, brew a beer, make it your own, and you're going to release it under our label. It's a collective label. It's black and white. The can looks black and white. It says all together. And see, the cool thing about this is when you buy one of those cans, proceeds will actually go to hospitality workers. That's another industry that is being affected by this COVID-19 pandemic that we have out now. A lot of those people are losing their jobs, aren't able to support their kids and their family. So this goes to help those people out. So again, if you're out at the store and you see Sigma Brewing's all together label, consider picking that up, or Lone Star's Rio Jade to help other people in need, guys. We're all in this together. Let's try to help each other out. So moving on, this is something I really couldn't wait to talk about. It's a weird, quirky story that was all over Facebook a couple of days ago. So I know I said I wasn't going to talk about, COVID-19 and pandemic and stuff like that, but hey, I gotta mention it a little bit. It's something that is affecting every single person here in Houston and the United States. And one of the biggest things that this COVID-19 pandemic is affecting is our looks. Like, you can't go out and you can't get your nails did. You can't go out and get a foot massage or a pedicure or anything like that. And one of the big things for us men is that we can't go out and get a haircut. I know me personally right now, my haircut looks like it's out of control. You could probably get birds nesting in there and stuff like that. So the story is that there was a woman spotted inside a Wings and More in full stylist getup. She was giving this person a haircut inside the Wings and More. Like, guys, I'm not the only one that sees something wrong with that, right? Like, this woman was driving past a Wings and More restaurant, and inside the window, she could see that there was two people sitting inside a chair, going full salon, getting their haircut inside a Wings and More restaurant. Guys, that's not sanitary. I know we're all struggling with our hair, and we don't look as good as we'd like, but guys, there's something wrong here. Now, my question is, the person that's giving the haircut, like, who was that? Was it somebody that just came off the street? Somebody that was ordering food? Like, somebody that works there at the Wings and More that's just extra talented? If you walk up to the thing and say, okay, I want a 20-piece wings and also, a low fade number 3 on top and shit. Like, like, what does that mean? And then the other thing is, how is the guy getting the haircut going to pay? Is he going to pay with money? Is he going to buy her a couple of wings? Like, how does that work? How does that arrangement work? Guys, Houstonians, we can do better than that, man. I know the haircut is a big part of how you look, but we can wait. We don't have to go inside of Wings and More and get that haircut and make a fool of ourselves, guys. Come on. So apparently the person that brought this story forward, Taylor DeVault, said that when she pulled up to the Wings and More restaurant, she couldn't reach anybody at the intercom. She couldn't reach anybody at the window because the people were inside were busy giving each other a haircut. Guys, priorities. Wings over a haircut. I'll take wings over a haircut any day, guys. So while we're on the subject of food, guys, let's talk about the food highlight of the week. So a couple of nights ago, my girlfriend and I were sitting in bed, we were watching TV, and we kind of got a sweet tooth, and we said, you know what, we want something sweet, we want something chocolatey. So right down the road, there's a real good coffee shop called Minuti Coffee that we frequent, but lo and behold, it was closed when we pulled up and said, man, what are we gonna do now? So apparently she was looking at Uber Eats before we left just to see what was around the neighborhood and stuff. And she came across this place called King's Cafe. Now, lucky for us, King's Cafe was immediately next to the Minuti Coffee that we were at. So we said, you know what, let's go. Let's take the risk. So when we walk in, this guy comes out of the back, and greets us with a big old smile, says, hi, welcome, guys. What can I do for you? So we walk into the store, and he's got a couple of desserts behind a glass case. And we start looking at that, and while we're looking at that, he kind of starts asking us questions about, hey, what do you like? What don't you like? What are you looking for? Are you looking for something more for a flavor, something sweet, something chocolatey, something texture-wise, just real in-depth questions. And we're sitting there like, man, this guy is like a connoisseur, like a sort of Willy Wonka of desserts, you know what I'm saying? So he starts giving us a description of every single dessert that he has there, and after asking us questions, he ends up recommending the triple German chocolate for my girlfriend, who wanted something more flavor-wise, and he recommends the Irish cream for me, who was looking for something a little bit more on the texture side. So we choose our cakes, and he walks in the back to get them, and we start, looking around the store and stuff, and it turns out he also has a case of gelato. So he starts looking at that. We start looking at the flavor descriptions that he has there, and while we're doing that, the guy walks out of the back with our cakes, and he sees that we're looking at the gelato, and man, his face lit up, guys. Like, I've never seen a man that happy about gelato. So he saw that we were looking, and he says, "Oh, you guys want to try?" And we're like, I guess, yeah, sure. And he starts giving us descriptions of each gelato flavor that he has in there too. Like, we ended up trying maybe 3 or 4 different flavors. Like, this guy was so excited about his gelato because he makes it there. So we tried one that was like a coffee flavor. I know I tried a cheesecake one, and the gelato was delicious, guys. Man, so I just remembered when we were looking at the dessert case, he had like this, it was maybe like a clear, tall glass. Think of one of those, what do they call, parfaits from McDonald's, that has like the yogurt and like the granola and a couple of fruits on top of it. He had something like that. I remember when I was asking him about it, he was telling us that it has a bunch of cookies, but it's also customizable. We can use Oreo cookies. We can use something called Lotus cookies, which when he mentioned that, my girlfriend said, "Oh, I love those." So if you guys don't know what Lotus cookies are, I believe they're like a Middle Eastern, Mediterranean sort of a brittle butter cookie, I guess. But they're real popular to eat with coffee. They pair well with coffee, which, my girlfriend loves coffee, so I guess she loves Lotus cookies too. But at the mention of Lotus cookies, the guy says, "Oh, you've had them?" And she says, "Yeah, I love them." So he turns around, grabs 2 packs, says, "Here, those are free." Like, this man gave us 2 small little packs of Lotus cookies just because my girlfriend said she liked them. That was pretty cool. That was pretty cool for us. So going back to the gelato, we ended up trying a bunch of those different gelatos, and he let us in on the process of, how he makes them and the different varieties and stuff. But this man gave us like the most amazing customer service experience we've ever had. And the cherry on top is that the desserts we got were actually spectacular. They were phenomenal, guys. So again, guys, the food here at King's Cafe is amazing, but the real treat here is the customer service. Like, we could tell this man is very passionate about his products and his business, and he genuinely wants to give you the best of his offerings. Like, guys, I cannot sing his praises enough, and we will definitely be back. So I want to give a shout out to King's Cafe. Let me give you guys the address here. King's Cafe is located at 5887 Westheimer Road, Suite H, Houston, Texas, 77057. Guys, if you head over there, let the owner know, I believe his name is Muhammad, that Houston Happenings Podcast sent you over. He will be delighted. So guys, to close out the first episode of the Houston Happenings Podcast, we're going to talk about this week's Houston hero, who is a guy named Guy Lance. Guy Lance is located over in Conroe, Texas, and what this gentleman is doing during his free time, through this COVID-19 pandemic, is he is crafting handmade specialized walking canes for veterans in need. Guy Lance is taking old Christmas trees as well as donated wood to make custom canes for these brave souls. And what's cool about it is that he is taking old bullet casings as well as, what are they called? I think they're called grommets, old parts from retired American flags, and he's working that into the construction, as well as being able to craft some sort of sentence or saying that is special to the veteran in need. And he's doing this all at no charge. He takes the canes over to the veterans that need them, all, on his own time, which I think is amazing. So this week's Houston hero, Guy Lance, I want to thank you, and I want Houston to thank you too. So guys, if you know a veteran who could use a cane, or maybe you need one for yourself, you can reach Lance through his email address, which is going to be guy.lance@coxautoinc.com. Let me spell that out for you guys. That's Guy, Guy, .lance, LANCE, at Cox, COX, Auto, AUTO, Inc., INC.com. That's it for me, guys. I've been your host, Chris Vasquez. Thank you so much for listening to the first episode of the Houston Happenings podcast. If you know a local Houston hero, or if you hear of a news story uplifting or funny or weird that you feel should be featured on the podcast, please reach out to me. You can find me on Instagram. You can find me on Twitter. All you gotta do is use the special hashtag HoustonHaps. That's hashtag Houston. We all know how to spell Houston, guys. Come on. And HAPS, HAPS. That's going to be our way to communicate back and forth, and for you guys to submit stories and Houston heroes to me that you feel deserve a special place, that you feel need to be spotlighted, that are doing their part to help Houston and the surrounding areas. Thank you so much for listening, guys, and I will see you next time in the next episode. Be safe and stay Houston strong.